restart some stuff over here, and we will get started shortly. Um, for those of you who read the weekly trade ideas, like that was really good. Like everything is playing out very well. So, you know, it's fun. I'm having fun. Give me 1 second here. There we go. And should be good to go. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. Good morning, folks. How's everyone? Let's see. I'm looking outside. How's the weather today? Weather looks fantastic. How's everyone doing? Hopefully, you folks had a good week. Markets definitely went the way we were expecting it to go, especially if you read the weekly trade reports, right? Because I'm, pushing those out every week now, for the last, what, 6 weeks, and yeah, it's been pretty darn good. So let's dive right into it. Let's see, where should we start this week? It's been a good week, and going into next week, it's probably going to be another good week. Things are going very well. Excellent, V. Glad to hear. I love the investor journey. Again, it never stops. I mean, like, what do you do after, I don't know, like, when do you ever stop investing, right? Morris says, great weekly reports. Thank you, Morris. Yeah, I mean, just purely look at the performance of the weekly reports and like every pick that I picked. Okay, like not every single one, but remember, the risk management is paramount, but everything else, right? Like we don't know the future, but we're going to take a jab at it. And when we take a jab at it, we're going to focus the risk management, right? If we're wrong about when we get in, we think it's going to go up. But if we're wrong, we need to risk manage the heck out of that position, right? So if you do that, then by that rules-based procedure, you should only be losing a little bit, but the goal is to gain a lot. So yeah. So Bernard says definitely a good week. Yep, I think so too. And I think moving into next week, it should be pretty good based off what I'm seeing. And so we're going to review that today. And I've also have like a big, I mean, so every week, right? Every week at the end of the week, I mean, on Sundays like today, I basically scan through the entire markets. I love what I do. I love just understanding what's the snapshot of the world every week, and I come up with a list of stocks. And if my list is pretty big, then I know that next week is going to be a good week, typically, right? That's one of the ways for me to gauge like, hey, what's it's beyond just looking at market index, right? We're not just looking at the S&P 500. We could look at the S&P 500, but I'm looking at, like I don't know, 500 plus stocks or whatever, a couple hundred stocks, I don't know. And I'm getting a sense of like, are institutional buyers jumping in? And I get a sense of this week as of this week, I do get a sense of buying. So it's looking pretty good, and we want to pay attention to stuff like that. It's super critical. You know, so let's dive into it. Let's see. Any questions here? We are either investing or stagnating. Yeah, exactly right. So gotta keep investing. Okay, so shall we? Let me ask you folks. Should we jump into the many stocks that are outperforming right now, like crazy, or should we start with the top and help you guys calibrate to what the big picture is doing? Because in this investing game, you gotta understand both macro and micro. So I'll let the class decide. Market overview, then stocks. Okay, cool. Bernard wants to do an overview, so let's start off with the overview as usual. Again, I think it can be a boring practice to some, but to me, I think it's a very healthy and productive practice. And it's hard like going to the gym, right? You know the gym is good for you, but then people are like, "Yeah, I can't, I don't want, I'm too lazy today. It's too cold. I want to go out, right?" So let's look at the S&P 500. Starting to look at the USA markets. And last week, right, last Sunday, I said, hey, there's pretty good evidence that we're gonna have a good week this week, even though USA markets like the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, the Dow Jones, the Russell 2000, they were kind of like chopping around, right? That's still true. I mean, we did chop around, but we actually progressed a little bit this week, and I like that. Now, the evidence that we had last week was basically the European markets. Meanwhile, a lot of the other traders, investors, they were just looking at, I guess, like the USA markets. I'm over here, I'm looking at global markets. And I saw European markets that, actually start to perform. It's pushing into new recent highs or new all-time highs, and well, that kind of gives it away, right? Because we got to understand that, the large institutional investor has a counterpart in the European markets, and a counterpart in the Asian markets, right? Because we know this world is it's a pretty dynamic world, and you just got big players all over the world in every continent. So we need to be mindful of that. And look at this, we just saw consistent buying of the European stocks 50 over here. So I kind of knew going into the week last week that hey, things are going to look good, and they pretty much do look good. So looking at it this week, right, we still see European markets maintaining its posture right here. We can look at the German DAX real quick. I know it's interesting. I'm starting with the European markets, but hey, I look at the world, not just the USA markets, right? I think it's just how the investment journey has developed for me. So we look at the DAX right here, also pushing to new highs or recent highs. Well, I mean, if you zoom out based off what I could see. Again, this is beyond my time. Well, actually, it's like the birth date over there. But yeah, it's basically all-time highs based off of what I could see right here. So the markets wants to go higher here for the German markets. So if that's the case, right, we know that the folks in Europe or Germany and Germany are feeling super extra bullish. So if they're feeling bullish, then what does that mean? Now, at the same time, what else does K know? Well, I also know Alibaba is outperforming like crazy, right? So Chinese tech stocks and China A shares are starting to perform as well. So we got 2 out of the 3 regions confirming performance over here. And if we look at the American markets, the USA markets, well, you know, we're going to dive into that shortly here. So I'm going to turn off the live stream over here for the folks who are listening for free. You know how it is. I pay for very, very expensive tools. If you want to dive into, sophisticated investment discussions at this point, you got to join the club.